Last but not least, the law provides for a simplification which allows to exclude from all the compliance regulations and compliance obligations low materiality entities. As such are being understood those entities which are not included in the consolidated statement of the given group.
Okay, zooming out and slightly again shifting our perspective. So, admittedly, certain compliance and reporting obligations may not belong to the most sexy aspects of new tax, and still, this is a discussion worth having because this is based on our, let's say, both intuition but also on our practical experience in this respect with numerous clients, that Pillar 2 is not only very sophisticated, very complex from a technical perspective, but also in terms of procedural aspects, in terms of data collection, data processing. And that's why we also would like to quickly discuss with you and highlight the requirements which are surely appearing now and through the upcoming months and years, because this is a process which in groups and generally in multinational groups, but also in local groups with the more entities, the more complicated, will probably give certain key individuals some sleepless nights to create these procedures and put them into use and then make them work on a daily basis. Because please bear in mind, we are talking about a global tax where you have to collect taxes from a potentially significant number of constituent entities, both in terms of a company, in terms of a partnership, in terms of a permanent establishment, which may easily trigger such an obligation for a couple of dozen and even more, a couple of hundreds in certain groups, entities. And such a data collection system should not be underestimated, both in terms, of course, of IT possibilities and calculating power, but also in terms of the procedures to be discussed, to be created, that everybody will be able to report at a proper moment, a proper set of data, which is probably prepared, which can be then processed easily on the next stages. And also this requires certain liability possibilities. Who is in charge of collecting certain pieces of data? Who is then processing it? Who is responsible for processing the data for certain errors, for certain omissions, and so on? So this is from a procedural side in terms of big data and data analysis, for sure, one of the most sophisticated, most complicated procedures probably we have seen here in Poland. Certain participants may know that in Poland we are already facing electronic invoicing system coming next year. And for this, we're only talking about a jurisdictional domestic issue, which already is very, very complicated. And in terms of Pillar 2, we're adding one more step of complexity of going through various jurisdiction and a multitude of constituent entities. And everything has to be reported in the end, both towards the group. So the ultimate parent entity, of course, has a major interest in that, but also on a local level, this is key in terms of reporting to the fiscal authorities. And having said that about the fiscal authorities, the key compliance matters in terms of Pillar 2 concern the so-called GloBE information, a tax return, and of course the tax payment. And these are now the key questions which we will answer on the following slides. So we have in Poland, basically, according to the draft bill, two sets of reportings, and the first one is probably known to everybody who has also had the chance to get acquainted with the EU directive. So this is the information on the top-up taxation, and a so-called GloBE statement. And this statement is basically to be filed by every constituent entity from a group in terms of the Polish draft bill, which are located in Poland, unless there is the corresponding information already filed by another entity from the group. And this may be either the UPE or a so-called designated filing entity, which may be empowered by the other group entities. However, in order to make such a reporting in another jurisdiction than Poland, the Polish draft bill requires that there is a special information exchange mechanism, a special agreement, if you will, which safeguards the proper exchange of information between the fiscal authorities of Poland and the other jurisdiction. And it should be stressed here that we're not talking about the standard exchange of information, which is happening based on applicable double text treaties, but the agreements we are talking about in terms of Pillar 2 are completely new. Therefore, for the time being, Poland has none of them concluded yet. And also knowing how much time it takes to conclude a number of such agreements, probably this is nothing what will happen within the next month. I think during the next years it should step by step grow, but of course this is only my assumption. So for the time being, I think it would be healthy to assume that in Poland each constituent entity should locally report till the moment when we have a sufficient network of international information exchange agreements, and then also, let's say, this burden will steadily decrease from a Polish perspective and will probably shift more towards the UPE or